Hey guys, it's Natsuko. I'm a regular office worker in Tokyo. Today I'm gonna make Japanese dumplings, gyoza, while having a casual chat. I've made a few videos before, but I've been wanting to hear more of your thoughts and opinions, so today I'm trying out a new style. I'll be chatting a lot while wrapping the dumplings, so if you are only here for the recipe, feel free to skip the part. Let's start by making the filling for the gyoza. So first, in a bowl, add about 220 grams of ground pork. Then I'm adding 1 clove of grated garlic, 1 piece of grated ginger, 2 tablespoons of sake, 1 tablespoon of sesame oil, 1 teaspoon of soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of chicken bouillon powder, half a teaspoon of sugar, and just a little salt and pepper. That's it. Pretty simple, right? Next, give everything a good mix in the bowl. Just make sure all the flavors come together nicely. By the way, I used to be vegan for a while. Back then, I made this recipe with tofu instead of meat. But I really had to drain out all the water from the tofu. Tofu in Japan has a lot of moisture compared to some of the drier ones overseas. So what worked really well for me was freezing it once, then defrosting and squeezing it. That way it loses a ton of water and it becomes nice and firm. Oh, the chicken bouillon powder / paste I showed you earlier is called vapor in Japan. I actually used the vegan version. That's kind of a leftover habit from when I was vegan. Both the regular one and the vegan one are super tasty, so I can totally recommend it. Next, let's finely chop the veggies and add them in. First, I'm chopping about 140 grams of cabbage. Well, to be honest, I didn't actually weigh 140 grams. I just kinda threw in what I felt right. For chopping, I always use this little hand chopper. Mine is from Muji and I really love it. It cuts really well and it's super easy to clean. Actually, most of my kitchen tools are from Muji. You know, I often think about how much easier cooking has become nowadays. There are so many great recipes online and tons of handy kitchen gadgets everywhere. Of course, some people just don't enjoy cooking, but I wonder, are there even people who are truly bad at cooking anymore? With all these resources, it feels like anyone can at least make something decent. And then I think about the time before the internet. People who are really good at cooking back then, that's really impressive. Like my mom, she had her own recipe books, and I imagine a lot of people used to cut out their favorite recipes from magazines and build up their own collection. That's super cool, isn't it? Once you're done chopping the cabbage, next do the same with the garlic chives. I know the recipe says half a bunch, but since I had plenty, I'm just adding a lot more. After finishing the garlic chives, next is the green onion. The recipe says to use half a stalk, so I'm actually sticking to that this time. Just finely chop it the same way and toss it into the bowl. Now let's mix everything together really well. Normally, people use their hands to knead the filling, but I felt a bit lazy today, so I just used a spatula. I think the reason people usually use their hands is because it's easier to knead that way. So with that spatula, I just pressed and mixed it, trying to bring out the sticky texture. Now let's start wrapping the dumplings. I've got 50 wrappers here, but am I really gonna wrap all of this? You know what's tricky about gyoza? Figuring out how much filling to put in each wrapper. If you put too little, it feels kind of unsatisfying when you eat it, but if you put too much, it won't close properly or it might even tear. So if anyone out there has some good tips, please let me know in the comments. You know dumplings exist in China too, but I wonder if the way they make them is the same as gyoza. When I was studying abroad, I had a Chinese roommate, and sometimes on the weekends she would make dumplings, but hers were more like these big fluffy buns, kind of different from the smaller Japanese style gyoza I'm making here. Totally changing the topic here, but when do you guys feel a generation gap? For me, I've been noticing little things recently. For example, in my team at work, some of the people in their 50s really love drinking parties. It feels very much like the traditional Japanese work culture. And also, the way they write in chat, they don't use many line breaks. So I suddenly get this super long block of text with no breaks at all. It's not bad or anything, but since I'm not used to it, I get kind of surprised. Another thing is language. These days, a lot of younger people, even when talking to juniors, still use polite speech, keigo, and I do that too. But many people in their 50s often speak casually, even with someone younger they are meeting for the first time. This is just my personal impression, but people in their 50s still seem to have a pretty strong sense of seniority. Like, even if they don't know you, as long as you're younger, they don't really mind speaking casually. And I kind of feel like they assume that if they ever need help, the younger people will support them because of that whole seniority system. On the other hand, younger people today don't really think about seniority as much. So even when they are talking to someone younger, they will still use polite speech. Maybe it's because they feel like if they don't, younger people might not support them later when they need help. Before I started working, I didn't really interact with people around my parents' age, so I never noticed these things, but now I do. I find it kind of funny. Working life is interesting in that way too. Another thing I've noticed at work is, well, I work at an IT company, and in my development team, I'm basically surrounded by men. Most of the time it's fine and I have fun, but honestly, sometimes it does feel a little uncomfortable or hard to fit in. One time, I happened to come across a YouTube video by a psychiatrist, and he said something like, of course it's stressful if you are the only woman in a team full of men, or the other way around. When patients tell me their workplace is tough and it turns out that's their situation, no wonder it feels stressful. And hearing that really made me feel relieved. When I think about it, in Japan, men and women still have plenty different cultural habits, so it's natural that groups form along gender lines. But that also means if you are the only one of your gender, you might not have anyone on your side if conflicts come up. Being in that kind of environment all the time, of course, it's tough. Before, I didn't think feeling stressed in a male-dominated workplace was such a big deal. But now I realize it's okay to say it is tough, and that actually makes me feel a bit lighter. How about you guys? Do you have any personal thoughts or little observations about your own workplace? I'd love to hear them, so please share in the comments. Now it looks like I'm making the last dumpling of this first batch. Oh no! Looks like the wrapper just tore a little. Wrapping gyoza is harder than it looks, right? So far, I've made about 16, but let's keep going. Changing the topic again, but do you guys ever host home parties? And what do you usually cook for them? I try to invite friends over at least once a month, and we either cook something together or do a potluck style dinner. Recently, we had a Thai food party. I made tom yum soup and khao mangai. Another time, we had a taco party where everyone could just rub whatever ingredients they liked. I've also tried making things like fruit appetizers or roast beef. Now that I think about it, I actually don't make Japanese food that often when people come over. I love sushi roll parties, but right now a lot of my friends don't really like raw fish, so I haven't been able to host one recently. I did buy a portable gas stove recently, so I'm definitely planning to do an okonomiyaki and takoyaki party soon. Takoyaki parties are so common in Japan that I feel like there must be at least 1,000 of them happening every day across the country. The fun thing is you can use all kinds of fillings, not just octopus, like sausages or even chocolate. So what do you think? Should I make a video about Japanese party foods? You know what I've been thinking? Isn't it kind of hard to make new friends as an adult? Like, where do people even meet new friends? When you are in your early 20s, I feel like it's still easy, even online. But once people get a bit older, I don't really know many people who make new friends that way. Maybe if you play a sport or join some hobby group, that works. I actually started hiking recently, but since I always go alone, yeah, no new friends so far. Maybe cooking classes could work. Sometimes I think about becoming closer friends with my coworkers, but in the back of my mind, I still think of them as work people. So then I start worrying, like, what if I say something in private that somehow affects work later, and I can't really speak as freely as I'd like. Plus, like I said earlier, there aren't that many young women around in the first place. Oh, and earlier I mentioned that I sometimes host home parties, but actually in Japan, home parties aren't very common. Almost nobody I know does them. I feel like overseas it's way more of a thing, like people actually meet new friends at home parties. So, do you guys really have home parties? Alright, this is the very last one. Wow, I made so many. I actually ended up making all 50 of them. Very impressive, right? Check out my masterpiece! I made so many that if you have trypophobia, this might not be for you. Alright, finally time to cook them. First, add some oil to the pan and place as many gyoza as you like. Let them cook until the bottoms get nice and golden brown. Once they are browned, pour in about 100 milliliters of water, cover with a lid, and let them steam for about 5 minutes. When the water has mostly evaporated, drizzle in a little sesame oil and keep cooking until the liquid is gone and the bottoms look perfectly crispy. And that's it. They are ready to eat. They look super crispy and so delicious. They turned out really well. I'm so proud of this. Okay, let's dig in. When I eat gyoza, I usually dip them in ponzu and chili oil with garlic chips. The tanginess and the roasted garlic flavor make the dumplings taste even better.